everyone. Thank you, Edwin, for turning on your video. And everyone, I'm Daylon, and I'm the founder of CuriousCore, and I'll be your instructor for today to share a little bit more about how we teach our students how to do storytelling here at CuriousCore. We specialize in helping mid-career professionals to transition into the field of user experience design as well as product management. So, to share a little bit more about what we're going to do today, I'm going to share with you why storytelling is an important skill and is a missing skill in a lot of the programs out there. And today we're also going to be sharing 3 different frameworks, 3 different ways to organize your portfolio case study and to tell the story of your portfolio case study to your potential employers. Okay, so we'll share some common ones which you see very often. At the same time, we'll also be sharing the less common ones, including our own unique method called the CuriousCore story method. Okay, and after that, I will give you also called a practice. And if anyone would like to volunteer for the practice, we'll be doing live coaching. We'll just be helping you to sharpen the way you communicate a story that's already been prepared. Okay, so all the points are over there. You can use any of the framework that you learn from this particular webinar itself. Okay, so hang on, let me show. So to kickstart this webinar, welcome. Once again, for those of you who just joined, I am Daylon, and I'm the founder and general manager at CuriousCore, and we specialize in helping mid-career professionals to transition into the field of user experience design and product management. So these are the topics we're going to be covering today, and I hope your time will be well spent with us, learning how to improve your own storytelling while you're building your portfolio case study or presenting your portfolio case study to your potential employer. And by the way, I know some of you might be really nervous in terms of presenting portfolios in general. So what I want to do this evening and for this particular webinar is to help you get from someone like the guy on the left side to someone like the guy on the right side, right? Feeling very, very confident about presenting and not feeling nervous at all, okay? And once you learned all these storytelling frameworks, it's quite easy for you to feel a little bit more assured about what you're doing, and you won't feel like you are blabbering while you're presenting your portfolio, okay? Now, this is actually from Figma, and recently Figma earlier this year did a research, and from that research, they actually talked to different designers in their design team as well as designers in Silicon Valley itself. And they realized that is a very important skill set under communication. And of course, there's a long list of skill sets as well. But under communication, for people who are starting out in their careers and for people who are experienced in their careers, as well as for people who are actually looking to be professional leaders in this field, one of the key skills is actually storytelling. And you can see what I highlight over here. If you are an emerging leader, you do need to present your work with polish and confidence. Not my words, but from the team at Figma, right? Most UX designers over here, you would know that most of us use Figma for all our work. So from their research, they say, hey, it's actually important for you to present your own work with polish and confidence. And this is one of the criteria if they're going to hire you as a UX designer, especially if you're a more experienced UX designer in this case, okay? So one of the key things I realized as an educator and as someone who has started a curriculum that is catered to helping people make that career switch, and we help over 100 people make that career switch from non-UX role, we realized that one of the things that other curriculum and other design courses don't focus on is storytelling and the practice of storytelling. So you don't only need to know the theory of storytelling, and quite a number of people know the theory, but not a lot of people have had the practice to actually do storytelling and do it in class and practice it themselves. Okay, so that's the That's what we're going to go through tonight, right? And welcome to those who just joined us. Okay, so what we're trying to avoid after today's class is that we're trying to avoid the fact that you're going to present your work like everyone else, right? You're going to talk about the entire design phase from research to prototyping to wireframing, right? To visual design and then to testing. So that's an incredibly boring way to present your work and something that is done to death by everyone. Okay, so that's what we're trying to avoid tonight. We're going to share with you some of the interesting ways that other designers have been presenting their work, including our own method of presenting the work itself. Okay. Okay, so why am I throwing shade on this particular format, right? Because everyone is using the particular format, right? They follow the entire design cycle from research to design. But most of us who actually have done UX design for a while, you would know that actually UX design is not a linear process. So there's no point presenting it in such a way where I'm going from research to design and then to wireframing and then to prototyping. So it's actually not really an effective way to present your work and to show the impact of your work and to explain to your potential employers, why did you do what you do, right? Which is actually what your potential employers want to know and want to hear. Not so much about what you did, okay, but why did you do what you do and what is the impact of your work itself, right? So the first format will be the SCQA framework. Okay, can I just get a show of hands from this webinar itself? How many of you have heard of the SCQA framework? This is like familiar to you. If it's familiar to you, give me any emoji that you find or reaction button that you find on Zoom. Give me a thumbs up, give me a high five or something. Have you heard of the SCQA framework? Well, we have several of you today, so none of you seem to have heard of it. Okay, that's good. That means you already learned something from this evening's class. Okay, so there are definitely different methods, Chloe. So one of the other frameworks that's also out there that talks about it is the STAR method. I would agree with that, but I'm going to show you different frameworks that you can consider. Okay. So let's start with the SCQA framework. What is SCQA framework? Okay, SCQA framework means situation, challenge, question, and answer. Okay, this is a framework that is used by the top business consultants in the world. People from McKinsey, people from Boston Consulting Group, right? They would use this particular framework when they're doing their presentations to clients. So they talk about the situation, right? And give context of the situation. They will explain what is the challenge, right? When you talk about challenge, things starts to get interesting, right? Because things are difficult, okay? And then they will ask a question. And that question is basically usually a how might we statement, right? How might we do this? How might we do that? And then they present a answer and a solution to their answer, to whatever the challenge was, okay? So in this particular case, you can use this particular framework to rewrite many things. I personally teach my team to write their emails to me in SCQA framework because I like emails to be concise and I liked the context to be in the emails as well as what are the solutions and the answers. Now, to show you an example and to show you that it actually is applicable out there in the world, I'll show you one of the portfolios of a Singaporean product designer. His name is Subra. Subra currently works at Foodpanda and is a product designer at Foodpanda. Now, if you look at his portfolio, just the particular case study on NTUC FairPrice, which is a local supermarket, you'll see the situation defined really clearly and really concisely in his portfolio, right? So this entire screen and background gives you the idea of the situation, right? It doesn't tell you about the challenge yet, but it gives you an idea of the context, the situation, what is going on, what is his role, what is the background, Okay, so this is actually the situation being established over here. Now, when you go down, it actually starts to emphasize more on the challenge, right? So under the problem title, he mentioned what is the challenge? What are the challenges that this particular company is facing? And then he started with a question, right? How might we create a lifestyle vertical to engage our customers beyond their transactions with FairPrice online? Okay, so that was the question. And then he started to present the answers, which is the design solutions, and he explained his design solutions and what was going on. Okay, and if you refer to his website, which I'm happy to share later in the link and description below, you actually see that he follows this format quite tightly, especially for this particular case study, and it's very concise and it's very clear, right? In terms of the number of words he used and the number of images that are in this portfolio itself. Okay, so I'll also show you another example. When you're using the SCQA framework, you can use it to also tell the story of how your app or how your website actually changes or makes the life of your customers better, right? So for example, in this case, let's say there's a person called Lena, right? And Lena needs to prepare dinner for her family, but there's a lack of convenience store around her neighborhood, right? So that's the challenge. So she decides to try this new website, okay, to purchase a set of kitchen rolls, for example. And then that's the story of how she resolved the solution is being presented, where she just needs to wait for 40 minutes and she has a kitchen roll in her doorstep. And then when her kids accidentally spilled the curry, she was able to clean it up easily. Now, it's not so interesting if I just share it with you over words, right? It becomes a little bit more interesting if I actually add simple images to what I'm sharing, right? And I'm not a good artist and I don't draw very well, but these are my drawings and I start to kind of share with you, oh, okay, these are just things that are happening and you're showing rather than you're telling the solution to your potential employers, like, oh, this is how the solution managed to change their lives. And this is definitely a consideration. If let's say you want to improve and help people to empathize a little bit more with your customer or with the users, you can actually do a very simple storyboard. And even though if you don't have very good drawing skills, somewhat of a decent drawing skills in drawing stick figure, that will actually help you to describe the story a little bit better. And you notice in this story, I use the SCQA format, right? That was the situation, that was the challenge, that was like sort of like a question, how should she solve this problem? And then there was the answer and the solution being presented. Okay, so I'm going to pause over here and I'm wondering if there's any questions from the class itself, just based on this SCQA framework. Okay, since there are no questions, I shall proceed to the second framework or the second framework. And the name of the second framework, there are several names to it. Some people call it the Minto principle. Some people call it the pyramid principle. Okay, but let me share with you, this is Barbara Minto, okay, the name of an actual person who I believe is still alive. And she is one of the first female graduates from Harvard Business School. Okay, a long time ago, back in the 70s, they don't take female graduates, all right? And they are minority in Harvard Business School. But she was one of the first female graduates from Harvard Business School. And after she graduated from the most prestigious business school in the world, she went to work for this company called McKinsey. Okay, and when she was working for McKinsey, she actually formulated a storytelling framework, okay, which is still being used by the consultants today. And some people call it the pyramid principle, some people call it the Minto principle, right? Just to honor her name, Barbara Minto. Now, the Minto principle, you have to think of it like a triangle. Okay, you have to imagine a triangle, and I'll show you an actual diagram of a triangle later. Okay, you have to actually talk about the solution first, right? You have to present the solution, you have to present the impact of the solution itself. Okay, and based on the solution and the impact, you need to share a little bit about why did you craft the solution that way, right? What are the reasons, what are the insights that inform you to craft that solution as such? And then based on each of these insights, you need to explain further with evidence and present the necessary evidence, what is going on and how does it help you, how does it help back your solution? So if you imagine it as a triangle, right? And if you're structuring your presentation or your slides, for example, and all McKinsey business consultants actually structure their slides this way. You have the introduction and the key message that you want to get across. This is very good for busy people, right? Because busy people just want to know the recommendation. Now, once you get that across, right, you actually present the supporting argument. You present your supporting points or the process itself, and you actually present the evidence behind each and every one of those process. Okay, and over here you might notice they mention, hey, your supporting points should be MISI. And in case those of you who are not aware what is MISI, right, it actually means mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. The simple idea behind MISI is just that your ideas shouldn't overlap. Okay, so let's say you're talking about how to make the supermarket better and stuff like that. Your solutions should not overlap with each other. Okay, so this is how you present it in a very structured manner, in a very evidence-based manner, and this is great for people who likes to look at something and they like to look at the data, they like to look at the evidence. Okay. So just to show you a portfolio example, right? There's this lady called Kimberlyn, and Kimberlyn is also based in Singapore, I believe, and she actually has done quite a number of global work, and she's hired as a product designer at Google. Okay, so Kimberlyn's portfolio for this particular case study she did for one of the challenger banks in Hong Kong, right? So when she actually presents this case study, you realize that she presents the solution first, right? She doesn't give context, but she presents the solution first and minimizes the amount of context being given. And then she talks about what did she do, right? What were some of the things that she did? And she presented her wireframes, the wireframes that she did. And underneath her wireframes, you can actually see that they explain why the wireframes were designed in a certain way. Okay, so you notice her portfolio is actually, her case study for her portfolio is actually way shorter than most portfolio case studies that you actually see out there, right? In fact, it's so short that some of the pages are just like you can scroll in a few seconds. Okay, so this is one of her case studies, and this is how she presents it. And if you remember, it's talking about the solution and presenting the solution first before sharing a little bit more about the differentiation, each of the supporting argument for the solution, and then justifying based on evidence why you design each and every one of those design as such. Okay. Do I have any questions on the Minto principle or the pyramid principle? Okay, great stuff. By the way, very grateful for all of you who, all 40 over of you who have joined us today. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so I will be sharing what I call the CuriousCore story pie method. Okay, it's something that I created. Okay, and this is actually really simple. Okay, you can see that PIE actually means something. Okay, it's not Penn Island Expressway for those of you in Singapore, but PIE has a different definition. So in this method, right, it's basically the problem the insights, and the execution. Okay, so that's why it's called the pie method. And you might be asking me, hey Dylan, how do I actually like allocate the amount of areas that to talk about, right? How much should I be talking about the problem? How much should I be talking about the insights and then the execution? Well, I'll say generally in principle, you can break them up equally into 1/3, right? But it's a interesting storytelling format because you are sharing about the problem and you're sharing about your hypothesis, okay? And this is actually very effective for people who like to, especially startups, right? They like to see that you do product discovery work, and they like to see that you have a process of like figuring out problems. So if you go by a hypothesis-based approach, they can actually see that, hey, you had a hypothesis at the start, and then you validated the hypothesis through research and insights, and then you executed, right? You use the insights to inform your design, and then you executed based on it. Right? So this is actually not a very common format. So you wouldn't see a lot of people using it. In fact, most of the time I just ask my students to use the SCQA format because it's way easier to explain and way more common. So when people are scanning, they can actually understand it. Okay. But let me show you a example, okay, of someone using this particular format, right? Not deliberately, but I just found out that he happens to be using this format. Okay, so Sigit is actually one of our instructors. He actually was one of our mock interviewers. He helped to sort of career code some of our past batches of students, and he's a senior product design manager, and I would say senior product designer and design manager. So in his portfolio, you'll see some of his leadership principles, but you also see a particular portfolio case study on home away Japan. Okay, so in this particular case study, he actually went to Japan, and before he went to Japan, he started with a hypothesis, right? And the hypothesis was, although we could have launched a global site in Japan, and having it accustomed to locals would likely increase awareness and acceptance, thus in the end making the experience better, right? So in summary, if we localize the Japanese site for home away, we are going to get better engagement with our Japanese customers. So that was his hypothesis. Okay. So the next thing he did was actually to share the insights. There were several slides in between. So if you are interested about what he presents, you can actually Google his name. So he shared the findings, right? He shared the findings of when he traveled to Japan, and when he did his desktop research in Japan. These were some of the things that he discovered, right? Japanese users prefer this, Japanese users prefer that. And these were the insights he discovered. And based on those insights, he used those insights to inform his design. So when he's presenting his design, he actually explains, oh, this is why we present our design a certain way, and this is what we localize in the design itself, because the insights inform the design. Okay, so there's a connection being drawn over there itself, right? It's not a very direct connection. You can see like this is slide 37, and then by slide 50, he talks about the design, right? So in between, he talks a lot about what did he do, what was going on. So if you want to draw a more direct kind of correlation, you can always mention in the design slide, hey, this was the particular insight that informed how we design this portfolio itself. All right. So far, do I have any questions on this particular method? So PI, right, is problem, insights, and execution, right? So it's the CuriousCore PI method, story PI method. Okay. Are there any questions on the PI method? Okay, so you might ask me, hey, Dylan, there's a lot of methods over here. Like even one of our audience shared like the STAR method, right? And which method should I use? There is no golden method. I think it depends on what you're comfortable with, all right? Most of the time, okay, most of the time, as I mentioned to you, I ask my students to present using the SCQA framework because it's the easiest to describe, right? You're talking about you're giving context, you're talking about the problems, and then you start to raise a question, and then you solve the question. So there's a very natural storytelling flow to it, right? You notice a lot of Hollywood movies, right? When they are talking about they're setting up the story, for example. And when they're setting up the story, usually the character is in a very peaceful kind of environment before he encounters something that is very challenging, right? So in this case, when there's something challenging, right, they call it slaying the dragon. There must be a resolution after slaying the dragon, right? So what's the challenge and what is the resolution? What's the answer to it? So the hero, if this is a story and if this is a Hollywood story, right? The hero of this story is not you. You are not the hero of the story when you're presenting your work, right? Your design, the design you created, the design solution that you crafted is the hero of the story. Because the dragon, right, or the challenge is the villain, right? And your design solution is the hero in this case. Okay? So that's why this is a very classic framework because even Hollywood uses it, and therefore I share it with most of my students to adopt from this framework itself and to use it to actually structure their portfolio. Okay. And Minto principle, I'll say, is very good if you're trying to structure an argument, right? You're trying to justify certain things that you're doing. So it's also not very commonly used, but if let's say you're trying to differentiate yourself from other designers, you can consider using the Minto principle to structure your storytelling. But when you're describing it, it's actually described in a very logical manner. This is our recommendation. This is our solution, right? The reason why we approach this way and the reason why we use this particular research method is because of the following reasons. Okay, so why did we adopt this solution? Why did we launch it that way? You start to break it down and then to help people to understand what's going on. And it's very, very data driven. Okay, so for people who love data, right? You're presenting to people who love data and loves to understand the evidence behind what you're doing. This is also a very good way to present your solution. Now, the pie method that we have is slightly different, right? I'll say, especially if you have projects that are doing more like hypothesis work, right? You're launching something new, it's like a new feature, you're trying to create like a totally new app, then this particular method that we have called the story pie method will be suitable in this case because you're talking about your hypothesis, you're talking about the problem, and then what are your insights and how did you execute based on that. So it's a slightly different approach. Okay. So let's do some live coaching, and if possible, I would like to request for some volunteers. If you really like to improve on your storytelling, right? I can actually help you in the process. So we're about 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, we got a question regarding the scope of to share per case study. For example, if I did a website redesign where many problems were identified and subsequently each of these problems have a different set of solutions, do you recommend I show everything or shave it down? Okay, the concern here is that if I include everything, the case study might be too long. Thank you for your question, Qiao-En. So essentially, as a designer, when you're presenting your work, whether it's to stakeholders or whether it's actually to your potential employers, you want to present things where you have the most impact, right? Where you actually influence the design the most, or you actually did something that created the most impact. So it is natural that in the actual case study itself or in actual UX design process itself, there's many problems that you need to solve, but you're not involved in every single one of them. And neither any single one of them is like a very high priority for the business itself, right? So if you're presenting to someone who is looking to hire you, they'll likely be interested, especially if you're applying for a product designer role, they'll likely be interested about the business impact. So I would say select the one that you have the most influence or the most contribution, and select the one where it actually led to the most business impact in this case, right? This would actually help you avoid the situation whereby you're presenting the work and then they ask you this question, so which one did you do, right? Which one did you contribute to? And then you're like, oh, the one with the high impact is contributed by my teammate. Then it feels very awkward in this case, right? So you want to present something that you had some ownership, you had some responsibility, you had some direct contribution to it, and then it gives people a better idea of like your how you delivered on it. Okay, keep the questions coming, and I am going to ask Jimmy Fallon to encourage for volunteers. All right, so if any of you are thinking of volunteering, it's a very, very simple exercise. Okay, over here, right, I have pointers about a potential presentation. Okay, say to the management team. Okay, so this is launching a digital channel for a Korean shampoo brand called Silky Green. Okay, please don't go Google it because the shampoo brand doesn't exist, right? But it is I would say based on a real case study that I encountered while I was working at Unilever, right? So in this brand itself, you see some pointers that were like some things that we did, right, for this particular exercise. So this is based on an actual business case study. I would like to invite any one of you, okay, to retell this in the SCQA format, all right, or in the Minto principle format, or in the pie method. Okay, any of these three, either one of these format will do. And anyone who tries, doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, you will get feedback from me, right? And yeah, we'll get a mystery gift for you as well, for anyone who was willing to try. Okay, because we have some overseas participants, so I don't know whether we should give a physical gift or like a virtual one. So depending on who the participant is. So I'll ask for volunteers from this class. Anyone would like to try to retell this story? Nabaya. Hi, Nabaya. Very brave soul.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good day. Where are you where are you dialing in from?
I'm from Singapore. Yeah, but could you give me a bit of time to think?
Of course, no problem. Thank you, Nabaya, for being the first volunteer. Okay, anyone else would like to volunteer? I think we can do two more. So I do promise that you will get a gift. Okay, I just don't know which one yet. All right, Gigi. How do I address you, Gigi?
Hi, yeah, you can just call me Gigi.
I can just call you Gigi. And are you dialing in from Singapore as well?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. So Nabaya, are you ready to go?
Sorry, give me a bit time, thanks.
Okay, no worries. Okay, let's look for our last volunteer. All right, so we have Nabaya, we have Gigi, and then who would like to be our last volunteer? I'll go in order. Thank you for these two very brave women. Do we have a man or do we have a gentleman who would like to volunteer? Nabaya, Gigi, and who would be the brave gentleman? No? I can't see I can't really tell whether some of your names are guy names, so I don't want to embarrass myself.
I think I can try.
Okay, Nabraya, let's go ahead first. So maybe someone's still waiting. Okay, Nabraya, which framework are you gonna use?
I'll try the CuriousCore framework, the pie method.
Okay, great. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
you have the problem or hypothesis and then the insights and the execution. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, go ahead.
Right. So, okay, I will assume that I am being the designer who is presenting the solutions, right?
Exactly. So you're
Right.
presenting this e-commerce solution. Yes.
Okay. So as we know, our client is a okay, so sorry, let me restart. Yeah.
No
So
worries.
as you know, that our client is a Korean shampoo brand, Silky Green, right? And so what we've noticed is that they just way too many shampoo brands in the market that it's hard for them to penetrate to our client, to our end customer. So with that, at the same time, based on our research, we see that actually after interviewing them, customers have their own favorite shampoo brand. And with this, right, we would like to uh instead of like having all these shampoos on the just on the shelf, what we've thought of is that why not we have local influencers to recommend this brand. And another insight that we get is that people can relate to these influencers more rather than high-end celebrities, for example. So with this, with the fact that everyone now have mobile phones, we will provide we will have um, a websites that allow them to uh, order through this website, and at the same time we will give uh, these influencers some kind of QR code, or allow these influencers to give some kind of um sorry, just let me
You can make stuff
think
up.
of
It's
it. Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
You can totally make stuff up. It's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. So for these influencers to provide some discount code to our customers. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, thanks.
Are you
Sorry, a
done?
bit long
All
one.
right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Nubaya. Can everyone please give her a virtual round of applause, please? Thank you so much. I also want to point out you don't have to go in order that I present here in terms of the number of points, but she did a splendid job in using the CuriousCore story pie method. So she shared about the problem and then she talked about the insights and then it connected to the solution. Okay, so wonderful job, Nubaya. Thank you so much. Can you drop me your email so I can actually send you a gift? Okay, so after Gigi present, I'll tell you all what the gift is. Then maybe we'll have our last volunteer. All right. Gigi, yes.
Hi.
Hello, Gigi. Okay. What framework will you be using?
I'll try SEQA.
Okay, wonderful choice. Okay. Yeah. Anytime you can go ahead.
Okay, so in this current year, we see that Gen Z are coming into like a working age where they are earning their own money and are trying to like establish their own identities as adults. And we also see that their consumption patterns are heavily influenced by what they see on social media. So in this industry of like personal care products, we see that there's been a lot of local influencers who have been put in to advertise for personal care and beauty. But then there's still the challenge that there's an oversaturation of shampoo brands in supermarkets. So customers already have a wide range of existing brands that they are already loyal to. So the question is then, how might we tempt customers, especially in the Gen Z bracket, to try something new, right? So since we know that Gen Zers are always on their phones, maybe we can ask local influencers, especially ones who have good numbers and a good reputation, to recommend this shampoo brand Silky Green. And in addition to that, we lower the barrier to trying this Silky Green brand by providing free delivery through a mobile-friendly order website. So yeah, even better if the company is able to supply free samples that would allow the people in the Gen Z demographic to be able to try like a variety of scents, and maybe even pair with like or do partnerships with fragrance companies so that the fragrance companies can introduce their branded scents into the shampoos, and there can be some kind of cross collaboration that can already tap on the perfume brands market. And
Okay.
that could be the answer to the challenge.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gigi. Are you in advertising by any chance?
No.
Okay. Or are you in marketing? No.
No.
Okay, but thank you for sharing, and I think you started off very, very strong. So I also like the ideas that you presented and that you shared, and you kind of like it's called going with the flow, right? So they call it ad lib. So you kind of improvise and you go with the flow, and then you create some additional information, which I thought was very, very interesting. And it seems like you understand the Gen Z space very, very well. Okay, so very, very worthwhile attempt. Everyone, please give her a round of virtual applause. Okay, so by the way, for Gigi and Gigi, please drop me your email as well. You can drop it in private. For Gigi and Nobaya, you will be getting a email from us, okay, to attend our short course totally for free. Okay, the course value is there are two different courses. One is our product management course and one is our UX course. So you can select either one. One is 2 days and one is 1 day. Okay, so you get to attend the course totally for free. All right. So maybe I think one thing I'll like to provide, since this is live coaching, is also some feedback. Okay. And I'll share a little bit about how to present this in maybe like the SCQA format. So something to consider, especially for Gigi, right? If you're to present a similar case study. And I think if you all have done this project for the last couple of months, you know it like the back of your hand. So I'm also being a bit unrealistic that you're asking you guys to present it in a couple of minutes. All right. So I really think you all did a very, very good job. Okay, so let's say I want to talk about a situation, and let's say I'm presenting this to my boss. Okay, so thank you for attending the presentation, right? So I want to share a little bit about the general situation. We're going to launch this Korean shampoo brand called Silky Green in a couple of months, right? As you know, there are multiple shampoo brands in supermarkets, and we have also seen that millennials and Gen Z and Gen Y are no longer on traditional media, right? So they're following some of their favorite influencers. They're actually into the K-pop wave itself. So I think we have a opportunity, okay, to actually do something different when we launch the shampoo brand. So the question is, how might we actually gain market share when we launch this shampoo brand called Silky Green, which is relatively unknown in the market, and we need to actually bring that to market and to attract people to use it and to try it and to actually make that their own favorite shampoo brand, right? So our solution to this problem and this challenge is to engage multiple local influencers to talk about the shampoo brand, and we would be paying them and getting them to advertise in very creative ways the difference between this shampoo brand and other shampoo brand. And at the same time, we will also encourage them to share a website that we have created, and it's mobile responsive and mobile friendly for customers who would like to order this particular shampoo brand directly online, as well as they would like to get free samples in case they're not ready to buy. Okay, we already have the wireframes of this website ready, and this is the wireframe of the website. Okay, so this is kind of like how you would present it or how you can present it. But whatever Nubaya did or Gigi did is also good. Okay, it's just that maybe the storytelling format is new to you, so you're not very used to it sometimes. And if you sound a little bit more confident, if you practice it a little bit more, especially before you go for your interviews, I'm sure you'll actually impress your interviewers. Okay? Okay, great stuff. Thanks, Nubaya and Gigi. So I have a question from the audience, Chloe. If you apply for a product designer role, do you need to list the business impact? I think it depends on the job description. And if the job description talks about strategy, it talks about working on a product level or working like it has terms that are related to the business, right? Like acquisition, retention, and stuff like that. Then I think they would be quite interested to understand from your perspective, like how do you think about these things from a design perspective. So that would be my answer to your question, because not every product design JD is written in the same way. Okay, great stuff. So Chloe used ChatGPT, all right? Good stuff. Anyway, I have another question, and if anyone would like to volunteer to get a free course, please let me know. So Gonzalo asked me, what would be the ideal length for a case study? I have heard of 3 to 4 full scrolls, but I'm not convinced by this measure. Well, Gonzalo, there is a principle that we generally follow when we create portfolio case studies, is to actually remember that this is a movie trailer, right? Please do not show the full movie on your website, because if you show the full movie and if you explain everything, then there is no reason for me to invite you for an interview, right? So what you want to do is actually to treat this as a movie trailer, and like all movie trailers, you want to show the best parts, right? Why is it interesting? Why is this case study interesting? Like, why is it related to your business and what, and you want to kind of flex yourself, right? Whether it's flexing to show you got good visual design skills, or flexing to show, hey, I've done all these different research methods, or I overcome this particular challenge, right? So it's a way for you to flex, so that when you actually go to the actual interview itself, you're able to then share like your thought process. You're able to then fully break down the entire case study itself, right? Okay, I have another question from Zining. I was wondering if a single portfolio, would it be messy to use more than one format of storytelling? Some projects have more evidence, while some are a little bit more exploratory. So you can use different storytelling formats. I don't think you have to always use the same format, right? I think it depends on your preference, whether you want your portfolio to appear very consistent. But from what I observed, analyzing some of the best portfolios, including Kimberly's, including Subra's portfolio, I noticed that they don't present all their portfolio case studies in the same format, right? So actually some of them use SCQA, and then some of them like they rotate around and then they use some other format. The important thing, I think that very important thing, which I will go back to one particular slide, is this, right? You don't want to just talk about your what. You don't just want to talk about what you did, right? You want to talk about why you did it, and you want to talk about what's your impact, right? So that's definitely something that's quite important to share, right? Speaking of impact, what would it look like for someone early in their career with only mock case studies or internships where my features weren't shipped out yet? How would I write or summarize impact? Well, Minnie, there are several ways to do it. Okay, so one approach, if you're doing mock case studies, for example, one of the common approach is to use this thing called the system usability score, right? It's called the system usability score. It's called SUS, to demonstrate there's usability impact in that particular case study, in the before and the after, right? If you've already done the project and it's too late, one way you can do it is to do some user testing, right? So you bring the old design and then bring the new design. So after you have the old design, you get people to use it, and then you introduce the new design. and you see whether there's any difference. And then for another half of the users, you do it the opposite way. So you eliminate that bias and then you see like whether the scores are actually like similar. Okay. So that is one common method. That's one common approach. The other common method and approach is from a qualitative perspective. If you were to ask a potential user, right, or a potential client, what would they share or what would they say about it? Okay. But I would say in summary, this is also one of the reasons why we design our program to do real case studies and real projects. Nothing beats doing the real thing and experiencing that client interaction and experiencing and seeing the impact of the challenge itself, how it actually affects the real client and whether the client feels that this is a good solution or a bad solution, right? So, but in the case if you don't have that opportunity, and I'll be sharing that opportunity with some of you, you can actually present what I suggested. Okay, and I hope I also answered Shanice's question, because if you don't have quantitative data, the next best thing you can do is qualitative data. All right. Okay. Last of all, thank you for all your questions, right? I just want to quickly let everyone know that we do have a upcoming enrollment for those of you who want to enhance and improve your portfolio, right? So we are one of the few programs that provide real case studies and real clients in the program itself so that you can practice, you can apply what you learned immediately, very much like this class. And then at the same time, right, you also get career coaching. So especially if you're a mid-career transitioner and not very sure, you never went to design school. I spent 3 years in design school. So you're not very sure what is the process like for actually like applying for a design role itself. So it can be quite intimidating. We actually prepare you for this process. And this is a part-time program and it's skills future claimable. So if you like more information, I can share the link with you. But also, for those of you who would like to learn more or download the slides today, okay, you can go to this link over here and you can subscribe to our newsletter. You can download the website itself. Okay, so for those of you who are interested in our career accelerator, we offer different UX programs. The one that is up and coming is happening in June, and it's our flagship program. It's the one that we help transition the most number of designers. Okay, the rest of the programs, the 2-day one is a very short course, which we're giving to Gigi, and we're giving to Subarya, right, for free. And then we have the WSQ ones, which you get subsidized rates. So feel free to explore our website and see what fits you. And if let's say you're not very sure about what you want to do, right? You're not very sure about which course you want to do, you're more than welcome to fill out the form on this page. And you can get a free career coaching call with me, right? And I'm happy to kind of walk you through and explore it and personalize your options with you. Okay. So with that, I believe we are almost at the end of the session. Do I have any remaining questions from the crowd? See the difference in the way we teach and the way we deliver our programs. We're very extremely focused on solving actual problems for our clients, not just in Singapore, but globally as well. We have clients in Australia, we have clients in Malaysia, right? AirAsia is one of our partners, Salad Stop is one of our partners. So our students actually managed to build a stronger portfolio as a result of the program. And we're one of the few schools that actually emphasize a lot on career coaching and career support. Even after you graduate, you can still text and email us, and we're happy to support you and answer any questions while you're looking for a role, especially in this very tough economic time. And with that, I hope I have shared and delivered enough value. And thank you for your attendance this evening. And I hope that you're able to apply and craft your portfolio way, way better. And with that, I hope to see you all in class sometime soon.